Hello, this is a very odd and different beginning to a video, but hello. I'm currently in Marseille and I have come off of my medication, the pill. Yesterday was my first day off in 3 months. If you're new here, I have PCOS and endo and I come off the pill every 3 months. And I have this series which documents my pain, my process of coming off medication, my emotions, my symptoms, just to look back on for myself, I guess, and to keep track of it. At the moment, yesterday I was in some pain at night, took painkillers, I was okay. Usually I wake up in a lot of pain after not taking medication. This morning I felt fine, which is very new to me. But about 10 minutes ago, got hit with a massive wave of immense pain. So, fun. I just took some painkillers, wrapped up, even though it's boiling here in Marseille right now. I have to like overheat to like feel comfort. I don't know, it's very weird. But our flight is in 6 hours, so I'll take more painkillers then, eat, you know, drink water, do what I usually do, and then hopefully I'll get home and be okay. But as per usual, if you have no idea about the pill, what happens is after you come off, it takes about 2 to 3 days to start actually bleeding. Last time was the longest it took me. It took me 4 days. Hopefully it doesn't take that long, because it stresses me out when it takes longer than it should. But yeah, not fun. In a lot of pain right now, but it's okay. This is very minimal compared to what I'm usually, compared to prior to the pill, this is nothing, but still not great. But what's amazing about being on a holiday, or like in general, having friends who give a shit about you, is as soon as like my pain hit me, I just like froze and had to breathe really deep. And my friend immediately knew what was up. She was like, shit, okay, time to get in the zone of looking after my friend. And she just got up and she went straight to the guy at the till and was like, can I have some tap water please, so I can take my meds. So that was really nice of her, because I can't move when I'm in pain. So not fun at all, but it's okay, because as soon as I get home I have nothing to do for the rest of the week. I have work to catch up on, but that's from home, so it's fine. And then next week, when everything kind of starts up again for me, I have a concert, my first concert of the year. I have my best friend coming back to London for 3 weeks. So I'll be off and back on my medication at that point, which is great. So good timing, indeed. Even though I'm in pain right now, at least I'm not bleeding. But yeah, I will see you guys with an update in a few days maybe. It is 2 days later, I'm home. I've been home for 2 days. And I actually, usually with these videos, feel like is it snowing? Anyways, I usually feel like what I say in these videos is kind of the same. I'm kind of just like, here are my symptoms, this is that. But I actually feel like this time I have a bit more to say. And I'm gonna be super open, so this is great for me. I started bleeding this morning, but I've said this before in other videos. When I come off my meds, it takes about 3 days for me to start bleeding, but during those 3 days I have pains. So I have those pains, and this is like probably the most normal period I've had in a while. The bleeding is the normal, like, average for me. The pains are average for me. Whereas like I think the past 2 have been super abnormal, like not bleeding a lot, and the pains have been like not that bad. So I don't know if I should be relieved or not that it's kind of going back to normal. And I think a few factors of that is coming out of an emotionally abusive relationship, because I no longer have to deal with the constant stress of that. I'm eating better. I've gained some weight, which is cool. You can no longer see my ribs. Therapy has helped me, and I just think I've been a bit more like, I don't know, energetic in the sense, and like out and about and just doing my thing. So I think maybe just happiness is like what's curing me, but at the same time I'm in a shit ton of pain. And last night I was watching this show, and I don't know the name of this show, but it's only on British TV because it's like a British like BBC show. But if you can watch it, I would recommend it. It was basically, and it's a show about people who have illnesses that aren't super like physical on the outside. They're more internal and like chronic and things like that. And they show these people what their bodies look like within, what these things look like within them, and like literal scans, and they make 3D images like virtually for them, where they can like put virtual glasses on and they can see said things. So my mom, who also had or has, we don't really know, endo and PCOS too. What I have is genetic, both of them. Recorded it because she wanted me to watch it with her. It was an episode on endometriosis. Now, I have a lot of knowledge about PCOS because I was diagnosed with that when I was 14. And I have a fair amount of knowledge about endo, but I was only diagnosed with that last year. So I do have less knowledge on endo than PCOS. I've seen my PCOS scans, my cyst scans, countless doctor's shit when I was younger, hence the very early diagnosis. But I haven't had any endo scans, any endo, even appointments. The way that they diagnosed me was I was in an immense amount of pain, hospitalized twice, and they were like, this is abnormal for PCOS, but you definitely have PCOS, so you also have endo, and that's your diagnosis, right? So that was how I learned about my diagnosis. But we watched this show, and this woman came on and she has endo. She was a lot of women are diagnosed very late, and I don't understand how, but I think it's because with PCOS it's easier to diagnose because you have physical cysts that they can scan and see, whereas with endo it's harder to diagnose and see it so physically as PCOS. But they showed us a diagram of her, like a 3D virtual diagram of her ovaries versus normal ovaries. So a woman who, or person with ovaries that doesn't have either PCOS or endo or any ovarian condition. Her ovaries were 5 times the size of someone without these conditions. She has a very severe case. There's 4 stages of endo. I actually have no idea what stage mine is at, but considering the fact I was hospitalized for pain twice in 1 month, when it started to get worse for me prior to the diagnosis, I'd say I'm like stage 2 or 3 max. I'm not a stage 4, I wouldn't say, which is the highest stage, and this woman was the stage 4. So her ovaries were 5 times the size. They were much more red. Like usually your ovaries are just like pink, and hers were red because they were so bloated. They were covered in cysts and like black, I don't know what it's called, but it's like the tissue is like black. And then if you like split the ovaries in half to see the internal part of it, there's actually internal bleeding. So watching this, I started to cry because I was just like, no wonder I'm in fucking pain all the time, you know? No wonder I have to have a hot water bottle on me every second of the day. And it just educating myself like that is triggering to an extent, but also really helpful. And I just think women, people with ovaries, people in general, partners, everyone needs to kind of like understand these things, because it is so life altering to an extreme extent. For example, the woman who had endo on the show said that she used to sing for her entire life. Her mum was an opera singer, and as soon as her pain started to get worse, she couldn't sing anymore, so she hadn't sung for years. And it's like, people will think you're exaggerating because you are a woman and because you don't have like a physical disability, but you aren't. And if you are shown your ovaries are 5 times the size of normal ovaries, and it has black tissue, and you are internally bleeding, and you have not only cysts on your ovaries but within your ovaries, which are called, I think they're called chocolate cysts. There's like 2 types of cysts. It's like the chocolate cysts are like brown and then the other cysts are white. Anyways, several types of cysts. You're gonna realize that there's something deeply wrong inside you. And I did have a thought which was like, wow, why me? And I know for me it's genetic, and I think it must be so much harder for women and people with ovaries who it isn't genetic, because you're kind of just like, wow, why is my body kind of turning in on against me? And it's not like that. And this morning I saw something very perfectly timed, I guess. My friend posted on her story about body neutrality instead of body positivity, where it's like you accept your body for what it is. You don't have to love it all the time, because there is a pressure, I guess, to love yourself all the time with this new age self-care, especially online and stuff that's being pushed. But if you accept your body for what it is and what it does, and you appreciate it for what it is and what it does, you kind of come to a place of accepting yourself and understanding that it isn't your fault. You didn't cause anything. Your body is just this way. And also the fact with endo and PCOS is that both conditions are completely changeable. They can get better, they can get worse, they can completely go away. It's not like they can be cured. It will just do it by itself. For example, my mum, when she was diagnosed with PCOS, they said she'd never have kids, and then bam, she literally immediately got pregnant with me. So, it's oddly conditions that are so not rare, yet so much misinformation is out there about, and doctors and so-called professionals know very little about it, and it's so shameful that that's the case, and it's thoroughly frustrating. And I'm very grateful that I got an early diagnosis, which I only got, 1, because it was genetic, and 2, because I remember the exact moment sat in that fucking hospital chair and that woman doing that fucking scan on me, and as soon as she was doing it, I couldn't see the fucking screen, but she was looking at the screen whilst doing the scan, and she just went, yeah, you have it. And I just went, okay, 14-year-old me terrified, seeing my mum almost burst into tears. Yeah, it's stressful. It's so much to handle. And also, personally, this is on a more personal note, which I wanted to touch on because I spoke about it in therapy this morning. Also, yay me, let's celebrate. This is the first time I've left the house on my period in months. To be fair, I only have 4 periods a year at this point, but yay me, pat on the back. Anyways, the point I wanted to touch on personally was for the first few years of my diagnosis of PCOS. It was very lonely because my mum was kind of, I love you mum, but my mum was kind of in denial because she felt guilty. At least we've never had that conversation, but I know that that's kind of what it was. And my dad didn't believe me because at the time I hated school, and I think part of him thought that I was trying to get off of school, when no, I was actually just in that much pain. It was after, this is a bit TMI, so if you don't like discussing blood, this is probably a very, not a very good video for you to watch. But there was a day about 3.5 years ago where I woke up and my entire bed was blood filled, just the entire bed, and I had no idea whilst I was sleeping because I was in such a deep sleep. But I woke up soaked, like my body was soaked and the entire bed and my duvet and everything was soaked. And from that point forward, they kind of started to believe me because that is something, you look at it and you can't deny. And then obviously my hospitalizations happened, which were really funny, by the way. Like, I was high as a kite because of the amount of medication they put me on. But once things started to happen where it couldn't be denied, that's when, I started to be believed. And also I think because at the very beginning it was very lonely because of that, but also because when people reacted that way, I sort of internalized everything going on inside of me, and I went, you're overreacting, you're not feeling that much pain, you're weak, you're this, you're that. I would have forced myself to go into school, all of the above, and so it was hard, and I was hard on myself. And then I think after those scenarios of waking up in that bed and then the hospitalizations, I was like, fuck it, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm not going to school, I'm not going to uni, I'm not doing this, I'm working from home, I'm working for myself, fuck everyone, if you don't believe me, fuck yourself. I reached a point of no return where it was just kind of like, I have to prioritize myself. If I don't prioritize myself, I might die. And the reason I say that, and I don't mean to make anyone scared, is because my mum did almost pass from these conditions, and a lot of people almost do, but not for being diagnosed with it. What has happened is cysts can rupture. When a cyst ruptures, it can kill you. So my mum's cyst ruptured, this is way before I was born, and that was actually when she was diagnosed with PCOS, so she wasn't diagnosed prior. And yeah, so I don't know, her cyst ruptured, and luckily she got to the hospital in time. And I just think, the fact that this is still a condition, or two conditions, that so little is known about, or spread about, or spoken about, or helped, it genuinely baffles me, because there are so many girls and women and people who have asked me, oh, this is what I have, do you think it could be this? And most of the time I'm saying, yes, this could definitely be this. There has been a couple people where they're just like, I have really heavy periods, is that PCOS? And then I'm like, no, PCOS comes with a lot more than that. It's a syndrome, and it's also, cysts. So it's not just heavy periods, but if it's abnormally heavy, go check it out anyway, just to be safe. But a lot of the time I have a lot of women and girls and people coming up to me, online and saying, I have heavy periods, I'm in immense pain, I'm pretty much fucking paralyzed on my period, I get headaches, I, gain weight, I have all this hair, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, how we haven't had a mass discussion about getting these things checked out, and also how we haven't had this mass discussion of, this is PCOS, this is endo, go to the doctors if you have these symptoms, or having, just a collective knowledge about these things really fucking baffles me and makes me very angry. Hence why I've started to post about it more and these videos as well. But it's been very persistent this week. Like, this has been on my mind a lot. Usually this is just like normal, but this week I've been very thinking about it and wanting to do more, and I don't have any ideas right now from, you know, past what I'm already doing, but I do want to do more. And I think like the last thing I wanted to touch on was I felt I've spoken about coming out of an emotionally abusive relationship a lot, and I've spoke about grief in general, and I've spoke about my mental health a lot. And I, especially on Instagram, if you aren't on my Instagram, follow it, because I speak about my emotions a lot on there. And I know a lot of people have seen that actually coming out of such a relationship has been amazing for me. I've been very happy and more stable, and you know, I said at the very beginning how much better I've been doing in general. But I do think that on my period I've had this realization of loneliness when it surrounds my conditions, because my past partner would always be there for me when it came to my condition. He was in the profession of medicine, and so he understood before I even had to explain what endo and PCOS were, and so I felt for the first time very understood and very loved and cared for. And I don't want to ever erase that because of any bad things. You know, good and bad exist simultaneously. And so I'm trying to open up, and I did with my therapist, about this loneliness that I feel now with my condition again. Because, you know, when you have someone looking after you physically, you know, sending food to your door when you crave something, or coffee when you crave it, it's so reassuring and loving and different when someone's doing it for you. And I've said this to my friends as well. Like last night, I said, look, I can do everything alone. I'm happy doing everything alone, and I, you know, don't want a relationship for like 2 years. I don't want to anything like that for a very long time, for like personal growth reasons and healing, you know, whatever. But this one thing, you know, my conditions is the thing that strikes a kind of triggering chord with me, because it gets quite lonely. And I do have friends who have PCOS and endo, and my mum, you know, does have it, but you can't really talk to your mum like you would with a friend. And the friends that do have it, we all have it at very different extremes. This is something that kind of takes up my life, and with them it's still bad. But I think with the friends that I'm thinking about that have it, they had it much worse when they were younger. And for me, it's kind of been the other way around. Like, I had it, and then I got diagnosed at 14, at 16 it got worse, at 18 it got the worst, and then now I'm on the pills, it's a bit better around 20 now. So every 2 years it changes. But yeah, I've just felt like a bit of a loneliness in the sense of not having someone to understand and care for me. And I know that everyone wants to be cared for and looked after physically, emotionally, because I don't crave anything like that right now. I just think that it's become a bit of a trigger for me, because I was finally understood in a part of my life that wasn't understood prior to having met him. And that is because of the parental denial at the very beginning, and the school denial and the friends that didn't understand, and the lack of awareness in general in society, in the collective. And so it was very lonely for a very long time, and then I was finally like understood on such a large scale. And so I know I was the one who walked away and caused the ending of that, but it is bittersweet in a sense. And I know also I've acknowledged completely that the boyfriend I had prior to this person was also very caring about my conditions. Not to the same extent, but still very, very caring about the conditions I was going through. And And I know that whoever I'm with in the future will also be very caring, because that's got to be the biggest like part of my life, and therefore a relationship and a partnership and a future, and will affect me having kids maybe and things like that. And so definitely I know it's not something I will just be like without my whole life, but the in-between stage of now and then, because like I said, I don't want to be with anyone for a very long time. It's bittersweet, because but also at the same time, I guess it's a learning thing, like learning to be okay with processing this illness alone, because I'm not alone. Like, I have incredible friends. You know, when I was speaking to my friend about how I felt last night, she turned around and she was like, I'll do a deep dive on your condition, I will be there for you, I'll do everything you need. And she's all the way in America, and it's just, you know, having friends like that and people like that in my life is super important, and that made me very emotional and happy and grateful. So I do have an incredible support system, and I can talk to my mum about the physical things that I'm going through, because obviously we've reached a completely different stage with my PCOS. And if things ever got worse, I know I do have certain good doctors that I can go to, and you know, the fact that I have a diagnosis is, you know, the biggest stepping like stone to anything else that I'd need. But yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. I think my points here, yes, was like a little rant for myself, but it was educate yourself even if you don't know anyone with it and do not have it, because you never know. Educate yourself for the collective in general, you know, and be there for your friends if they do have it. Be there for your partner if they have it. And if you think you have it, try and get diagnosed, do your research. Don't be scared either. I mean, it is like, it is life altering, but it's not the worst thing in the world. And I know that doesn't bring much comfort, but it should bring some. And there are ways to help it. You know, for example, I'm on the pill. I want to come off the pill, but I think I'm going to stay on it for like another year or two maybe. I think I'd only come off of it once I'm in a relationship again, just in terms of like having children and stuff, because they say to come off the pill a year before you want to start having children. So, you know, it's nothing I need to think about now. But yeah, those were my points. And if you have it, or you think you have it, if it's diagnosed, if it's not, you aren't alone. I know it does feel super lonely. A lot of chronic illnesses feel super lonely because they are invisible disabilities. You know, I could have disability lanyards and things like that, and I get very scared at the idea of that because of judgment. Not that I'm scared of being judged by strangers, but more so I don't have a physical disability, so if someone looks at me, they're gonna think I'm bullshitting. But it is a disability, and it can feel lonely, but there is a large collective of women and people with ovaries out there who suffer greatly daily, and you just kind of need to immerse yourself in that once you're ready. And in the meantime, I'm here, and I'm a bad bitch. I say with like my fucking hot water bottle strapped to me, and like I'm sweating, and like my boobs hurt, and like whatever. This was like a therapy session for me. Anyways, it will be okay. Everything will be okay in general, not just my lovely expanding ovaries as we speak. I love you very much. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time, and I hope you have a good weekend or week or whatever the fucking day or time is for you. Quickly, also wanted to add, I think this is the end of the video, purely just because yes, I have another 3 days of this, but nothing else is really gonna change. Let's be honest. If I want to keep track of my symptoms and you want to skip this, skip like 20 seconds, but here are my symptoms. Normally heavy period, extreme pain, but I'm on paracetamol, so it's okay. And I bled 3 days. No, I haven't bled for 3 days, which is great because last time it took me 4 days to start bleeding. So there's some progress and improvement there. I kind of said all this already, But just in case I wanted to keep track of it. And my lips are super fucking dry. And I want my coffee and Tic Tacs. Yes, I eat Tic Tacs as a snack. Okay, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Bye. Mwah! Give some love to your ovaries. They need it.